בעזרת השם, השם שגיב us ברכה, הצלחה, בריאות, הרבה דסייעתא דשמיא. גם תברך את יעקב בן אשר, may Hashem bless him with all the blessings of the Torah. וגם תברך את קיריל דניאל בן מיכאל. Thank you for the sponsoring for the shiur. בעזרת השם, השם שגיב him זיווג עגום בשנה הזה, וכן יהי רצון ונאמר אמן. I'm going to say quietly for the ברכה, הצלחה. בזכות הלימוד הזה, וכן יהי רצון ונאמר אמן. And also this shiur was sponsored by לעילוי נשמת חנניאל בן אסתר בבייב. רוח השם, תנחנו בגן עדן, ובכל השוכבים עמו בכלל רחמים והצליחות, וכן יהי רצון ונאמר אמן. We go with the Pirkei Avot, we continue with Pirkei Avot. And we're in the second chapter. And the following Pirkei Avot talks about how we're supposed to be so careful with the mitzvah. We have to see the mitzvah, we have to run for the mitzvah, like it's very important. We cannot determine from the good mitzvah or not good mitzvah, or the mitzvah, what's the reward we're going to get and what's the reward we're not going to get. B'Yerushalmi ita damar abayracha, Rabbi Acha b'shem Rabbi Arbar Kahana, Namar orach chayim, pen tifales, na'u magloteha lo tida. So it says in following, b'shem Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana. It's following like this. If we're supposed to be run for the mitzvot, what's supposed to be the best mitzvot? No? Guys. העולים הקדוש ברוך הוא מתן שכרן של עושה מצווה. העלים הקדוש ברוך הוא. הקדוש ברוך הוא hid the mitzvah, that every mitzvah that we do, הקדוש ברוך הוא, what he did, he hid in the שכר, which means the word of it. כדי שיהיו הכל עושים אותם באמונה לשם שמיים. So we're able to do mitzvah for the לשם שמיים, which means for the sake of Hashem. ולא לשם קבלת שכר. We should not do mitzvah, so accept the reward for the schar, which means reward for the mitzvah. Rabbi Yitzchak אמר נאמר בכל משמר, נוצר לבך כי ממנו לתוצאת חיים. Rabbi Yitzchak says, keep and watch your heart from all the mitzvot that you're supposed to be do. From there you get a חיים. מכל מה שאמרה תורה ישמר, שאין אתה יודע מאיזה מצווה יוצא לך חיים. The Torah says be careful, or to watch and keep. You don't know from which mitzvah it will bring you a life. במסכת מועד קטן, דף ט', סוף עמוד א', רבי יונתן בן סוני, רבי יהודה בן גירים, רמוך דקרי אהדה, פלס, מעגל רגליך וכל דרכיך יקנו. So the Chazal says, be careful, prepare all the path of the way in your life. That's what it says in Mishle, פרק ד', פסוק כ"ו. פלס מעגל רגליך וכל דרכיך יקנו, כתיך משלי, אורח חיים, תן תפלס, נאו מעגלותיך ולא תדע. בפסוק ראשון משמע שישקול כל המעשיו. A person has to put on a weight, which means he needs to scale all his deeds. ויחשוב איזה יותר חשובה. What's the most important mitzvah? He needs to put on a scale. ואם היא מצווה או תורה, he needs to put on a scale, either mitzvah or Torah. בפסוק שני מזרר שלא ישקול אותו. In second pasuk talks about, do not put on a scale, what's a mitzvah, what's a Torah. ולא קשיא כאן מצווה שאי אפשר לידי אחרים. If you're able to do mitzvah through people would be able to do through other people, let other people do the mitzvah. But if you're learning Torah and they're telling you come do mitzvah with us, you're not supposed to be doing mitzvah. We're going to explain how it's going to work. Kegon hanachat tefillin. He says tefillin, you have to put it every day. Nobody could do it. You cannot do it through the messengers. Ve'yeshev basukah. You want to sit in a sukkah, the only way is to sit to sukkah, you have to sit yourself. V'shemat kol shofar. You need to listen to kol shofar. Kol shofar needs to be listened. You cannot do it through others. There's a mitzvot we must do, and we cannot say this mitzvot is not for me. שאי אפשר להתקיים על ידי אחרים. And he says, I'm going to learn Torah, I'm not going to do mitzvot. The whole Torah was given in order for us to do the mitzvot, to make the mitzvot to be happening, put in the effect. בזה שיגיע זמן מצווה, יפסיק מלימודו. If a person comes to the point where he has to stop and he has to run for the mitzvah, you have to run mitzvah, you have to run for mitzvah. יקיים מצווה כלא יקר המדרש אלא מעשה. It's not most important is to learn, it's what it says in the Torah, to do, put a performance of what it says in the Torah. Performance of the mitzvah. What does it mean? Of course you have to learn. Without the learning, you would not know how to do mitzvot. עיין בירושלמי פרק ב' בשבת, זה נאמר אורח חיים פן תפלס, שאין לך לשקול איזה עדיף. The Mishle says you should not put on a scale which mitzvah is better. Should I put a tzitzit or tefillin? What comes first? Should I give a tzedakah to this person or to this person? אלא יש להפסיק מלימודו לעשות מצווה. A person should stop learning and do mitzvah. כאן במצווה אפשר על ידי אחרים. If you're able to do mitzvah through others able to do, let them do it. For example, if a person have to do your side, and he goes to your side, or he needs to come learn the Torah. He needs to sit, learn Torah. Your side you could do through others. But we don't understand it, what's the importance of learning the Torah. We're leaving the Torah and we're going for your side. So, כגון לשמח חתן וכלה. Oh, the biggest thing, שמח חתן וכלה. Somebody makes the חתן וכלה, bride and a groom happy. It's also a big mitzvah. אפשר לקיים מצווה על ידי אחרים. Let other people go to that wedding. You have a mitzvah to learn Torah, sit and learn Torah. לא יפסיק מתלמודו. You should not stop learning. You should continue learning. ואף על כן שאמרו בפסחים, 7 מנודין לשמיים. 7 people in the Masechet Pesachim in the Talmud, in page 113b, it says 7 people was excommunicated to the heavens. מהם מי שאינו מוסיף בחברת המצווה. They tell him, come do mitzvah with us. And he says, no, I don't want to do mitzvah. He's been excommunicated to Shamayim. כגון סעודת מילה. סעודת מילה, which just means, they're going to tell him, either learn Torah, or come for Brit Milah, for Suda. You should learn Torah. סעודת נישואין בת תלמיד חכם לתלמיד חכם. He says, right now you're going to go, and he says, Talmid Chacham, which just means a scholar daughter getting married, or you have to learn Torah, you have to sit and learn Torah. מכל מקום כיוון שאפשר לקיים על ידי אחרים, לא יפסיק מתלמודו, אפילו להתחיל ללמוד על ידי כך יהיה ניווצר ממנו אז בסעודה מצווה, רשאי, וכל שכן לתלמיד חכם יברר להלכה למעשה, נכתב בספר שאין לך מידה טובה ימינו. So whatever we said, the best way is the Talmid Chacham is to write books. What kind of books are you supposed to be write? The books of the halacha. Halacha, which just means the laws. So, like it says in Shilod, Ki Talmud Torah kneged kulam. Says a person when he's learning, Talmud Torah kneged kulam. You're learning Torah, it does all the things needs to be done in life, it needs to be done. במדרש תנחומה כתוב, איתי אמר רבי אחא, רמ"ח מצוות עשה יש בתורה. How many positive mitzvot we have? 248. שנאדם, כל עבר ועבר מאדם. So what? We have 248 bones. אמר לו, עשה לי מצווה, תחיה אותו בזכותה תאריך ימים. He says we have 258 bones, 248 bones. Each mitzvah is subsequentiated with the mitzvah. Which just means, you do this type of mitzvah, you're going to bring das ever, which just means that bone, you're going to bring it to life. What means you're going to bring it to life? You did the mitzvah with the tefillin with the left hand, you're going to break this to this mitzvah, you're going to bring a life. You're going to do mitzvah with the right hand, you said shakol, you're going to bring, and you're going to, like this, you're able to have a long life. והוא אומר מכל משמר נוצר לבך כי ממנו הוצאת חיים. He says, watch for your heart. That's where all the life comes from. Watch for your heart. ויש ששם מצוות לא תעשה בתורה כמניין ימד החמה. You have 364 mitzvot, 65 mitzvot, don't do. It's like a sun. How the sun? 365 days a year. That's the way the mitzvah lo ta'aseh, 365. B'chol yom me'ed zricha chama. Every day the sun rises and goes down. Ad shkia. Hayom amar le'adam. The mitzvah says, Hayom la'asotam. Do mitzvah today, not tomorrow. Hazir v'shamor lo ta'avor kol bi'avira. Be careful, a person. Don't do a sin. Pen tichra et atzmech v'et kol ha'olam lekav chova. If a person does one avira, one sin, the whole world is chas v'shalom is sinning, and he makes the whole world, God forbid, to be destructive. Hare tariag mitzvot b'Torah. How many mitzvot in the Torah? 613. Basifri parasha ekev katuv, im shomer tishmeru kol mitzvot azot la'asota, shtalmud midrash v'alachot agada. A person is supposed to be learned day and night. Parasha Ekev says, be careful. You will eat, you will forget about Hashem. We're supposed to be learned midrash, alachot, agadot. Shelo tomar lamanti alachot kol tzorchi v'day li. It says, hey, Rabbi John, I already learned this halacha. I don't need it. What are you going to tell me? Keep repeating the same thing. Talmud lomar ki shomer tishmur kol mitzvat azot. Talmud says, be careful, everything I tell you, Hashem, there's no such thing as repetition. Is there such a thing as remembrancy? If a person remembers the halacha, he needs to continue learning and continue learning. In order for him, the halacha is going to be part of his life. I love the people say, I have a Gemara class. I have a Gemara class right now. 8 o'clock, I have a Gemara class. Okay. You learn Masechet Barachot? Yes. Do you remember? No. Do you learn it? Yes. Do you know how to apply it? No. You right now, passing by, the person is praying Shmona Esrei, you're not supposed to be passed by him 6 feet, and you pass by him, you made a sin. How do you learn? That means you're not learning. You're just making the chair to become warm. Person have to be careful. Application, tomorrow they're not going to say how many pages of the Gemara you learned. Tomorrow they're going to ask you, did you do the halacha that you learned? No, I didn't. So what's the point of learning it? The whole point is, you learn Masechet Barachot? Yes. You said Shema Yisrael? Yes. How did you say Shema Yisrael? I don't know. How did you learn Masechet Barachot? I don't know. We learned with the rabbi. It was cool. He was screaming. I like it. I ate the food. I enjoyed it. We had such a nice time. Great time. Okay, it's good. Great time is good. You're supposed to have a great time. Did you apply it? No. You're going to get Din V'Cheshbon. The whole point, application. Allah Lemaise, what did you do? V'zair mitzvah kala. A person has to be careful. He cannot say this mitzvah, like in Pirkei Avot says, we're reading which is Pirkei Avot, this mitzvah I'm going to do, this mitzvah I'm not going to do. K'dichtiv Rambam. Rambam says following, בפירוש משנה, היא המצווה יחשוב שיהיה קלה, כגון שמחת הרגל, לימוד לשון הקודש. He says we're supposed to be mitzvah. It's not so important for us. What's considered not important for us? We're supposed to be on Yom Tov 3 times a year. We have to be happy, which is Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkah. We have to be here happy all the time because it says in the Torah, Tachat, under the Hashem, you did not work. You work under the Hashem with this happiness, with the Tov Levav, with your heart, beautiful heart, with a good heart. Most of us come, look at our faces. And we're in the morning, we're Talmud Torah, we fall asleep. That's what the Torah is commandment. Or we fall asleep, or we're tired. Baruch Hashem, we have 30 kids, we need to support them. A person has to wake up. It says, mitzvah kala for the person, he needs to be happy in a regel, which means happy in Shlosha Regalim, which means in 3 holidays. What's considered happy? I'm going to call the clown. The clown is going to tell me bidicha, which is he's going to tell me something funny. I'm laughing. This is considered simchat haregel. No, this is not considered happiness on the holidays. Kegon simchat haregel, limud lashon hakodesh. Not only that, a person also takes in his eyes so easily. We need to learn Hebrew. If we're not learning Hebrew, which is lashon hakodesh, we would not know what's happening in the Torah. Okay. עניין חובת ידיעת לשון הקודש, לשון תורתנו הקדושה. We need to learn לשון הקודש. We need to learn the Torah language. The Torah has its own language. Israelis has their own language. Torah language is different. Israeli language is different. Torah language is from the Hashem and Chachamim. Israeli language, it's most of it made up. hu חובה על כל איש יהודי. We have to learn Hebrew. We must learn Hebrew. כי השפה המקודשת שבו נתן הקדוש ברוך הוא את תורתנו הקדושה לעם ישראל. This is Safa, which is, this is the language, מקודשת. It's a holy language. We have to learn it. וקוראים ואינם מבינים בלשון הקודש. We're reading, but we don't understand what we're saying. עד שירגמו להם בלעז. Until you need to translate, I'm translating right now in English. נוהגים רק מכלי שני, ועוד שיקולט מוח ויעביר את ההבנה לשפה לזי, זה בחינה כלי שני אינו מבשל. In Masechet Shabbat in the Talmud it says, page 40, Amud Bet, on Shabbat we're not allowed to cook, correct? So, this is an urn. From the urn, there's a second cup. He says second cup already does not cook. He says same thing when a person transports the information from the Hebrew to any languages, it's not the same thing. What's the best way? To have it from the urn directly to drink, or from the second cup? Second cup does not boil, so it does not cook. We have to learn Hebrew. We have to learn Lashon HaKodesh. Hashem gave it to us, we have to learn. הנה בחינה כלי שאינו אינו מבשל. רואי בספר ספר פרשת, למדתם אותם את בניכם לדיברתם בם. Not only that, we have to teach ourselves, we have to teach our kids. מכאן אמרו, כאשר תינוק מתחיל לדבר, אביו מדבר עמו בלשון הקודש מלמדת תורה. Once the baby starts talking, the father's obligation to teach him Torah and teach him Hebrew language. And teach him Torah. ואם אינו מדבר עמו בלשון הקודש, אינו מלמדו תורה. What if he does not speak to him in Hebrew, and he does not teach him Torah? ראוי כאילו קברה. חס ושלום, חכמים said, it's like you bury your kids. שנאמר, ולמדתם אותם, like the verse says, you were teaching them. למען ירבו ימיכם, your life is going to be longer. וימי בניכם, your kids' life is going to be longer. בתוספתא כתוב, אביה מלמדו שמה ותורה ולשון הקודש. A person is supposed to be teach his kids himself, which is Hebrew language, to the Torah, and teaching them Torah. Masechet Pesachim says, in page 113, Amar Rabbi Yochanan shlosha min ocholei ha'olam haba. Rabbi Yochanan says 3 people have share in the world to come. Hadur ba'eretz Israel, whoever lives in Eretz Israel, he has a part of olam haba. So what if a person lives in Eretz Israel but does not keep no mitzvot, no nothing? Does he have olam haba? Of course not. We right away saying, I live in Eretz Israel, patur mikol mitzvot. I don't have to do nothing. It's my country, that's it. Hashem gave it to me. Hashem gave it to you to keep the mitzvot, not to say, I don't want to keep the mitzvot. Migadel banav letamud Torah mavdil alayan b'motzei Shabbat. He says 3 things a person has olam haba. Lives in Eretz Israel, takes his kids to the yeshiva, and Motzei Shabbat, he says, alayan hamavdil ben kodesh. Like this, he has olam haba. Okay? Which is the hardest to do? To live in Eretz Israel, to raise the kids to the Talmud Torah, or to make on Motzei Shabbat a la wine?
Teach your kids. Take them to yeshiva.
Rav Yehuda Tzadka says the most hardest thing to do is how do Havdalah in Motzei Shabbat.
Wow.
Yes. That's right. So it says over there, we say, Savri Maranan Lachaim, Borich Ata Hashem, Borei Prei Gefen, Borei Prei Esbe Besamim, Ene Besamim. Then he says, Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechol. Hashem, you give me brains, I would know the difference between Kodesh, which just means between the holiness, between not holiness. The hardest thing to do, Rabotai, we could go to yeshiva. We could live to Eretz Israel. But we don't know the difference between good and bad. That's the hardest thing to do. Why? Because we're still keeping out with our brains. We come to shul. People could come to shul. On Shabbat, you could ring a phone. You pray. Rav Yehuda Tzadka says the most hardest thing to do, and here clear, is to make Havdalah Motzei Shabbat. Because when you do Havdalah, you have to know the words. You say, Hamavdil ben Kodesh Echol. Hashem, I know the difference between holiness and not holiness. Right? People could go to yeshiva, they could do averot, because they don't know the difference between good and bad. People could live in Eretz Israel, they don't know the difference. Hamavdil ben Kodesh Echol, that's the hardest thing to do. And for you, everybody, you said that's the easiest. No, we could go. We have a name, yeshiva. We go to yeshiva, but we continue doing what we're doing. We live in Eretz Israel. We continue. Rav Yehuda Tzadka says, no. Know the difference. When to say yes, when to say no. Know the difference. What kind of yeshiva is your kids going? Know the difference where you're living in Eretz Israel. We said, Nisan, please, I want to go to Eretz Israel. Know the difference. What's a good? What's bad? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says 3 things was given with the Yisurim, with the pain and suffering. Masechet Barachot, page 5. Eretz Israel, Torah, with the Yisurim. Okay? Eretz Israel, Torah, Ve'olam Haba is given through Yisurim. Hashem merachem aleinu. Mavdil al hayim b'motzei Shabbat. ביושי תנא בשם רבי מאיר, כל מי שקובע בארץ ישראל, בידבר בלשון קורא קריאת שמע שחרית וערבית. Rabbi Meir says another thing. מי שקובע בארץ ישראל, whoever have a place in Eretz Israel, Rabbi Meir says, מדבר בלשון הקודש, he's speaking in a Hebrew, וקורא קריאת שמע ושחרית וערבית. He says, שמע ישראל, Rabbi Meir says, שחרית וערבית. אוכל פירותיו בטהרה, he eats fruits of Eretz Israel with the pureness. יהיה מבוסר בין העולם הבא הוא. He's considered he's an העולם הבא. So which person is Rabbi Yochanan says? You have Eretz Israel. Shacharit Aravit he does properly. Okay? He eats the pirot of the Eretz Israel Batahara. And he says he has Olam Haba. What a great thing we have so much right now to have Olam Haba. Correct? Hala. כן כמו כוח לשון הקודש כמו גדול בעניין חז"ל. He says for Chazal it's very important to learn Hebrew. Not Hebrew, Israeli Hebrew. Hebrew of the Torah, Hebrew of the Lashon HaKodesh, of the Chachamim. Many people maybe Israelis could read Hebrew, but they don't understand what it says in the Torah. And they would never understand. Because Torah is reading one thing, it's a written Torah. Then you have an oral Torah. If you don't know oral Torah, which is Chachamim, in the language of Chachamim, it doesn't make a difference of what you know and what does not know. It makes it easier a little bit, but sometimes it's also confusing for Israelis when they learn it. They think in one way, the Chazal think in another way. Bichlal, there's no comparison between the Hebrews and understanding. Okay? So it says, Shitama Rambam Shimna Mitzvot Kalod, Limud Lashon HaKodesh Damane. So it says, Rambam says a person should learn Lashon HaKodesh. Okay? Ela Neymar Balashon HaKodesh Parashat Hakel, Hakahal, Kol Ha'am Mutziim Lishmo Lavin Et HaKriyat Shema. In the time of Bet HaMikdash, in the time of Shemitah, they used to read the Parasha Hakahal, which means they used to gather and read the פרשה. כמו שאמרו בהגיגה, אנשים באים ללמוד, שמע מינה, מצווה ללמוד בלשון הקודש. So we have to continue and to learn מצוות לשון הקודש. לשון הקודש, which means Hebrew. קיום עם ישראל נובע משמירת לשון הקודש ועריך שם בזה. There's a guy who wrote a book. He says Jewish people without the Hebrew language that according to the Torah says it's very problematic for them. גם בגולה יש להציב ציונים לשון בלשון הקודש, שהיא תתפלל ללמוד תורה בפניהם, תהיה ממונים להם. That's why it says everybody, if somebody lives outside of Eretz Israel, they should teach the kids and themselves how to speak Hebrew. לא יצטרכו להריג בכלי לעבוד ידיעת תורה בכתב בעל פה. So it's like he's saying you're taking it part and you're not cooking it. You're taking from one pot to another, you're translating. It's way different understanding when you understand in Hebrew. ידיעת תורה, יכול להסתגל לארץ ישראל, לכבד עליהם, עליהם מוכשר ידיעת שפה מדברת בארץ הקודש. He says, a person, then he would understand Hebrew, then we're able to have Kedusha inside of them, then they could go to Eretz Israel. כי אפילו ראשונים לא הרשו לעצמם לעזות ידיעת לשון הקודש. בכך אווירה, ביניהם חצי מדברת אשדוד, ואינם מכירים לדבר יהודית. ורימם ויקללם ויקם. חס ושלום, נביא says, somebody does not Hebrew, it's not good for the generation. וזה זהיר מצווה קלה כחמורה. A person has to be careful when a mitzvah comes to him, and he cannot say this mitzvah is greater and this mitzvah is less greater. מעשה נורא שהיה אצל השר הגדול, רבי דון יצחק אברבנאל, זיכרונה צדיק קדוש לברכה. Rabbi Yitzchak was a treasury for one of the kings. Treasury, which just means all the money that comes in. Rabbi Yitzchak able, a Jew, a Jewish important in the government, he's able to spread the wealth, and which is the government, whatever the government needs to be done. Asher haya שר האוצר של המלך ספרד. He was living in a Sfard, which just means Sfard. It's in Europe. Yes, Spain. It's a Spain. The king loved Rabbi Yitzchak Abba Barnael, loved him. But other people, unfortunately, they were jealous. He says, listen, you're trusting this Jew with everything that you have. What's happening? They say, hey, excuse me, is a trustable guy, this Jew that you're hiring and you're so close with him? A king agreed to the jealous people what to do, what they're going to do. They told him, tell to this Jew of yours, Rabbi Yitzchak, tell him that whatever the money, houses, buildings, land, everything that he has, make sure he's going to show it to you. How much money? Not only money, everything that belonging to him, he needs to show to the king. Kara melech et Asara Barnael. He says, Rabbi Yitzchak, the king called the Rabbi Yitzchak. Bikesh leparet ktav leva kol rechusho. He says, give me everything, show me everything that you have. Betoch shlosha yamim. He says, I give you 3 days. Chazar Asara Barnael. He says, Rabbi Yitzchak came back. Hagish et hacheshbon shel rechusho. He says, this is my money that I have. Hagia basach kol 700,000 shekel. It's only 7,000 shekels. Everybody saw how much money he has. Tzachaku. Everybody laughed. ואמרו לו, הרי ארמונו של השר יהודי בלבד שווה כפליים מן הסכום הזה. He says, just Rabbi Yitzchak's house cost triple of what the money that he showed it to us. Hashdud v'karmim asher shavim skum atzum. He says, whatever the land, the fields, everything that he has, he says, this is already how much money he has from all this money. Aviu shamay la'arich et nechsei hasar otzar. Now they brought the shamay, appraiser. They brought the appraiser and they said, excuse me, either we here make a mistake or you make a mistake. Appraise everything that he has. הוא אישר חשבון הגיש שר אוצר, לא יגיד למחצה שליש ורביע נכסיו. ויקצוב המלך מאוד, אמתו בערו בו. The king got so upset, and Rabbi Yitzchak, he didn't even show maybe 10% of all the money that he has. And he got so upset. הנה קרוא עוד הרגיז מאוד. Then a king, he is already more angry. את המלך הוא היה בית שר האוצר, משרת נוכרי. Rabbi Yitzchak had a worker that was working with him, which was helping him everything. He was a goy. שהרי נאמן בו. Rabbi Yitzchak used to trust him. תמורת שוחד יקבל משרת משר החוץ. You have a treasury from inside, Rabbi Yitzchak, and you have a treasury from outside, another goy. Whoever was working with Rabbi Yitzchak, ganav schum hasodim. He says, the outside treasure guy used to steal from the king. שלא היה יודעים רק המלך ושר האוצר. He says nobody knew except the king and the guy that have the treasury from outside. שנועדה שר החוץ עם המלך, גילה שהוא ידע מן הדברים שהיו מסוכמים בהם. He says this treasury guy, now he goes to the king and he tells him all the secrets. שאל את המלך עניין, הוא יודע כל זה. He says, how do you know everything about my business inside my treasury? ענה לו השר יהודי, גילה לו את הכל. He says, this Jewish that you have inside of you working, he told me everything. המלך חרה פה עד מאוד על שר אוצר שלא שמר על סוד המלך. The king got so upset because he didn't keep the secret Rabbi Yitzchak, and he became angry more. What happens next? גמר אותו בליבו, הוציא להרוג את השר. He says, I'm going to kill him. בפרט אל הסחורים שהוריד לכם מסים. He says, I cannot kill him publicly. People have merchandise, people have stores in my country. I'm going to make the taxes lower. ויחלו מיד ממש מלך ושרים, כדי שלא יתראה שהמדינה הרגיעה של שר האוצר. Nobody should feel that he is going to go and kill Rabbi Yitzchak Abba Bar Nayan. והחליט להרגו בצינה. He says, I'm going to kill him privately. בהיות כי מחוץ He says, in the outside of the city, you have a factory. במרחק 4 פרוסות. He says, about 1 hour driving to the city, to outside of the city, to the factory. יש מפעל ליוצר לבנים, דולק כבשן האש יומם ולילה. He says, the fire inside the factory, day and night, non-stop, 24 hours. יש להוציא על ידי שיאכלו כבשן האש. The way I'm going to kill him, I'm going to throw him inside the fire. The king says. ואז קרא המלך את שר האוצר. He says, come to me. To Rabbi Yitzchak, come to me. מסר בידו אגרת מלכותית. He says, I'm going to give you a note. You're going to go give to the factory. התאמה בחותם המלך. The letter sealed with the king's stamp. ויצירה שהלך אופן שדחוף את המפעל הבירני ומסר את האגרת לידו, שבא למפעל. He says, you're going to give to the owner. You're going to give owner of the mif'al, which is the factory, you're going to give him in his hand. He says to Rabbi Yitzchak, הגרת כתוב, פיקודי סודות לבעל המפעל. He says, I'm commanding you, the owner of the factory. שבעת קבלת האגרת, when you're going to get the letter, מיד באים אומרים דברים, ייקח את המוסר האגרת וישלחו את הכבשן האש. He says, the guy who gave you the letter, throw him in a fire, and the letter also throw inside the fire. וישרף. וכן העלים השר אוצר היהודי מן האופק. Says the Rabbi Yitzchak, he took the letter and he ran whatever the king says. מבלי ידע לדבר להקל הרחב. He says he did not know what's inside the letter. שר האוצר מהיר לקיים את פקודי המלך. He did it quick. Rabbi Yitzchak, he did it right away in that spot. ויסור מרכבתו יעלה עליך נשוא מפעל. He goes in right away to the factory. He does not know that he's going to get killed in a factory, thrown in a fire. ואת משרתו נכלי לקח עמו. He took with him the goy that's servant that snitched on him to the outside of the treasury guy, he took it with him. He does not know that he snitched on him. מתחלך בתמות צדיק, צדיק went without realizing nothing, just going. הם יצאו את העיר, לא הרחיקו, והנה הבחינו שאיש יהודי עומד על פרשת דרכים. He says they came out of the city, and they see there's a guy, a Jewish guy, by the path. המרכבה לעצור, השר ההוראה לעצור, he says, Rabbi Yitzchak says, stop, there's a Jewish guy on a path. What is he doing on the roads? שמע את המבקשו ליהודי. He says, the Jewish guy came in to the Rabbi Yitzchak, ואז ניגש יהודי ואמר אל השר, אדוני השר, he says, my dear שר, which is minister. לפני 8 ימים נולד לי בן זכר, he says, 8 days ago I had a baby boy. הזמנתי מוהל לבוא היום אל ביתי למול את בני. He says, I invited him on 8 days so he could do brit milah for my son. אך לצערי חלה מוהל. He says, מוהל became sick. ולא יכול לבוא את מול בני ביתי. He says, he's not able to come and do brit milah for my son. לך נפשי בקשתי שואל כבוד השר. He says, my dear minister, I want you to do brit milah for my son, please. בידוע מכיר שהוא מוהל מומחה. I know you're a professional מוהל, which means circumcision. לבוא אל ביתי לקיים מצוות תורה. Please do for me מצוות תורה. ביום שמיני למול בשר עולתו, like in the Torah says, on the 8th day, you're supposed to be circumcised the baby. השר רבי יצחק הרהר כמיהה. Rabbi Yitzchak start thinking. Rabbi Yitzchak Abba Bar Nael. He start thinking. What does he start thinking? חשב בדעתו, הנה מצד אחד עליי למלא פקודה מלך. He says, on the one side, the king told me, I need to go, do his commandment, whatever he says, but food, it was emergency. He says, take the letter emergency. מצד שני, יש חשוב ביצוע מצווה של המילה ביום שמיני. He says, the second side, you have to do brit milah for the child on the 8th day from the Torah. ואיך אפשר להתקמק מקיים מצווה הבורא מפני פקודת המלך בשר ודם? Rabbi Yitzchak says, how are you able to listen to the king, which is come from the flesh, not the king of מלך מלכי הקדוש ברוך הוא? מה יעשה קרא משמר נוכלי שלו, ביקש ממנו יישא מרכב ויסור את הגר בעל מופעל. He says, he calls his servant and he says, go take this letter to the what? To the factory. והמתין לו שום עד שיבוא השר לקחו וחזרה ביתה. He says, I'm going to come after you. I'm going to take you back to the house. והסכים השר המשרת הכך. He says, the servant, he says, okay. He does not know what's inside the letter also. לקח את האגרת בהמשך נסיעתו מרכבה, עשה ירד מרכבה, והלך רגליו בבית אביו. He says, you're going to go over there to the factory with the horse carriages. I'm going to go with the food to the kings, to the mohel, to do the brit milah for this Yehudi, for the Jewish person. ואחר שמלד בן, he did brit milah, Rabbi Yitzchak. His servant is in a factory. הפיצו קהל בשר מוהל לשבת וסעודה עמהם. They say, now Rabbi Yitzchak, you did brit milah, please sit with us. They were Bukharians. Please sit with us. You eat with us. Enjoy with us. Please. Okay? מילה, ולא היה יכול לסרב בהם. He says, I cannot refuse it. וישב לאכול אותם בהיות שהיה חכם גדול בתורה. He says, he said, he was a חכם גדול. He gives the pirush on the Torah. He gives pirush on the Torah. He was a chacham gadol, and he sits, and he gives the divrei Torah. Not only did he do brit milah, he also did what? He stood in a suda. דברה באמצע סעודה דברי תורה ומחכמים, כי יד השם הטוב עליו. He spoke דברי תורה, speaking and speaking. באופן עבר כמעט כל היום במילה בסעודה. The whole day, it's almost with the brit milah and סעודה. רק לעת ערב לקח רכב אחר, נסע אל מקום מפעל של הלבנים. He says he took another horse carriage. He went back to the factory. Okay? He took it. מה שהתומם לשמוע מפי בעל המפעל. Now, the guy who owns the factory, the owner, he starts speaking to Rabbi Yitzchak. כי לפי פקודת המלך באיגרת הסודית יוצא להרוג He says, the letter says, I'm supposed to be killed. Whoever, he was the important man, which is minister. I'm supposed to be kill him. That's what it says inside the letter. והוסיף בעל המפעל שקודם השליחו המשמרת. He says, before we send the slave to the fire, התוודע על עוונו והצדיק עליו את הדין. He says, I made a sin. The slave says, I made a sin. I'm supposed to be die. מפני בגד באדוני השר. He says, I traded my master, he says. I was snitch on him. Before they send him, he did vidui. And בעל המפעל, which is the guy who owns the factory, he tells him this everything. מפני בגד באדוני השר. וגנב מסיכומים סודיים של השר אוצר, ומסרם לידי שר החוץ. He says, I was snitching from my master. I was given to that guy, whoever has the treasury from outside. שר האוצר מתומם על כל מה שיתרחש. ויצחק חרדה גדולה, וישמע חרדה גדולה. רבי יצחק was shaking. Was shaking. שהבין מה צפוי לו. Wow, he realized what was waiting for him. אלא היה מוסר בעצמו את אגרת סודי בעל מפעל. If he would have gave to the owner of the factory himself the letter. אלא יתקיים שומר מצווה לא יהיה דבר רע. מצווה, if somebody does מצווה, nothing gonna happen to that person. צדיק מצרה נחלץ ויבוא רשע תחתיו. He says when a tzaddik is in a pain, Rasha is gonna go after him and he's gonna get killed. ואותן ויתנן אדם תחתיך. Hashem is gonna make it that way that the tzaddik is going to live and the rasha is going to go under him. כל הסיפור זה גניבת המוסכמים יסודיים היה חידוש בעיניו. He says everything that he stole from me and he gave the information, he snitched on me. He says this everything new, I never knew even. He says רבי יצחק. להתחיל לשבח, לפעל, להודות השם יתברך, שמור נפשו, חסידיו מיד רשעים יצילם. You start praising Hashem. He says thank you very much. You Hashem, you helped me in everything. And you helped me, saved me. Okay, למחרת חוזר על המלך. Tomorrow he comes back to the king. ברוד מלך שר אוצר של הנדהם. The king became in such a shocking. How did Rabbi Yitzchak came? שאל אותה, האם אתה פה במפעל? He says, did you go to factory? אמר לו, אדוני המלך, כך וכך היה מעשה. He says, this is the way it happened. I'm going to explain to you. וגם סיפר למלך על הווידוי של המשרת שלו. He said, this his slave also did vidui before he passed away. אמר לה המלך, אתה ידעתי כי איש צדיק אתה. I knew you were tzaddik, he says. Hashem shomer otcha nesheret b'chaim. He says, Hashem is watching you, that's why he keeps you alive. V'sar achutz pesha b'gnivat. He says the guy who stole the money from the outside, which means the treasury of the outside, he got killed. ותקף ציווה המלך לתות שר החוץ פשע. רק נשאל לי טענה עליך. הגשתי עליך חשבון רכושך. He says, I just want to have one problem with you. Remember I told you, show me all the money that you have in your bank account, all the properties you have. Can you please show it to me? That bothers me. How do you have millions and millions of dollars and you show me only 7,000 shekels? That doesn't make sense. אך יתול הוא להאמין בחשבון הגשה, בשד שבאמת רכושך, הלך 10 המונים של אשר צור בחשבון הגשה לפניי. וענה רבי יצחק tell him, אדוני המלך, my dear master and my king, אמנם יש ברשותי הון רב כהנה וכהנה. He says, yes, I have a lot of properties, I have a lot of money, I have a lot of houses. אך איננו רואה שהוא שלי. But he says, I don't see this is mine. כי פקודת המלך יכול להרים הכל מעצרו. He says, I'm able to give everything to you, whatever that I have. אולם אני מסרתי את חשבון כספים שנתתי לצדקה. He says, everything that I have, yes, it's mine. Remember I showed it to you, 7,000 shekels that I give? He says, this is the only thing is mine. Why is it mine? והכסף זה שלי, לא יכול איש ליטול ממני. He says, nobody able to take this from me. שהוא גנוז למעלה במרום. He says, this is hidden outside, upstairs in the heavens. Why nobody able to take? זאת תהיה כוונתי. הודה למלך ואמר. He says, this is the tzedakah. Whatever I gave tzedakah, that's the money that I showed it to you, and that's the money that I able to have upstairs in the heavens. Whatever you showed, whatever I have over here, it's nothing is mine. Anybody could come in and anytime and able to take it. And that's why I show you this type of amount that I showed it to you. בדין שהוא ניצל ממוות בטוח. He got saved from the death. רבי יצחק. ושונאיך נפלו תחתיך. His enemies fall under him. והחישו אויביך לך ואתן במותיך תדרוך. And he says, when the enemies come, Hashem makes sure that you're going to step on them. From here we learn why Rabbi Yitzchak got saved. Because he did a mitzvah. What kind of mitzvah? He's so Jewish. That was a Brit Milah. But at the same time, he worked for the king. Me and you would have said, listen, the king paid me $1 million a year. I'm going to go for this Jew, do a Brit Milah. Later on, he will live with it. Don't worry. Torah will forgive you. Rabbi Yitzchak says, no. Now I have two things. Either I'm going to be afraid of a king in this world, or I'm afraid of the king of the Melech Malchei Malachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Which one I'm afraid? Rabbi Yitzchak says, I will do upstairs. He did a Brit Milah. He got saved from the death. He stood in the Suda. He would have said, brothers, I don't have time for the Suda. What Suda are you giving me? I have to make the kings. The faster I make, the more raise that I have, the more closer I'm going to be to the king. What, I'm going to sit, have a Suda with you guys? Like one of my students said, hey, over here, Kaddish, you see, I say 10 people. Over there in Yeshiva, I say 300 people. And everybody says, over there is more mitzvah. Chazal says, no, you don't know. You don't know who is over there. You don't know who is over here. Kala. It says the She'en ata yodeh matan schara mitzvah. We don't know the reward of the mitzvah. We don't know if there's 1,000 people or 300 or one person able to do the mitzvah and yachol liftor et haolam and able to nullify the whole world. Like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, Ani yachol liftor et haolam nadin. I'm able to nullify the whole world from the judgment. What do you mean? There's millions of people living here. Jews doing mitzvot all day long. And Rabbi Shimon says that I'm going to, lachol liftor, I'm able to nullify the world from the judgment. He's able to do it. We never know a Jew, each Jew individual, what able to do. We look different. We have a different yarmulke, different beer, different peyot. But the potentials that we have, none of us know. None of us know what's the reward for Shemaim. The fact that you're coming here, you're leaving your family, you fall asleep, you're working all day. You have a much greater reward than somebody learning all day in some way and somewhat. And how? Because you're putting effort. And that guy is already trained like this. There's many cheshbonot in the heavens. We don't keep that cheshbonot. That's why the Pirkei Avot says, we don't know which mitzvah we should do, we should not do. We should not put it in a scale. Oh, I'm going to do for that rabbi this mitzvah, but I'm not going to do mitzvah of kibbut avayim, respecting father and mother. Doesn't work like this. Doesn't work like this. Mitzvah, we cannot put on a scale. If that would be working like this, we the Jews, with the best accounting. The Jews are accounting, right? We say, oh, Hashem, you put it in the Torah, kol hakavod. We're all going to run for the mitzvah. What about the mitzvah of minyan? No. Hashem, you said it in the Torah, right? Correct, Hashem? That's why Hashem did not put all the mitzvot. He did not put. One mitzvah he did put. 2 mitzvah he did put. 3 mitzvah he did put. He put 5 mitzvot in the Torah. Respecting father, mother, and mother, you get a mitzvah reward in this world, in the second world. Put on tefillin, l'chiyamim. Shiluach haken, they're taking a dove in a, shake it off from the can. Yes, that mitzvah you're able to do, and you have orach yamim. There's a mitzvot, it's done. But the rest of the mitzvot, which is the hardest mitzvah to do, out of all what are you guys thinking, the hardest mitzvah to do in the Torah is respecting father and mother. That's the hardest mitzvah. Not the mitzvah, whatever you think in waking up in the morning or put a tefillin or anything. That's not the hardest mitzvah. The hardest mitzvah, kabet et avicha vet imecha. The hardest mitzvah to do. Right? We make an excuse, shalom bayit, my mom, I can come, my wife. Yeah, the rabbi also says, shalom bayit, you have to keep her happy. Then there's the other mitzvah to do. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu erased his name for shalom bayit. but he did not erase his name for the respecting father and mother. How do you put in a scale? How you scale it out? You need to be chacham. It's not just simple thinking and just say, oh, okay, it's okay, you do it, that's it. Because this guy himself does not have father and a mother, and he don't care probably about them. And that's why a person does it. A person has to be careful with every mitzvah. We don't know what's the reward of the mitzvah. We don't know if the mitzvah is a higher, greater, less greater. B'ezrat Hashem, Hashem give us baracha, tzlacha, briyut, arbe disyat dishmaya. Thank you for coming. Thursday we have a shiur from 8 to 9. Rabbi Hanania ben Akacha אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל, לפיכך הרבה להם תורה ומצוות, שנאמר אדוני חפץ למען צדקו